Thank you very much. Our next speaker is going to be Honorable Jacob Mafume. He is representing MDC. Yes, sir, your reflections on this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I thought you were going to start with the elderly. Is it
now you see why I separated them.
I fear, but you did. Okay. Thank you. For that breach of protocol, I will say my 2 cents on the matter. When you hear a lion saying that it is training itself to become a vegetarian, it will be a very foolish animal which will continue living as if the lions will become vegetarians. I've noted from the speech by the minister that he speaks about training. The level of lack of detail worries me about that training. Who are they working with in the training? How are the police officers being trained? How are the institutions working? Where is the curricula? Who has developed the curricula in human rights? All of the reports and commissions that have come out, the Monsanto Commission, the Human Rights Commission, the latest special rapporteur report indicate that gross human rights violations have been done by the security forces, they've been done by the police, including and not limited to the death of known numbers of people. There has not been a single prosecution. No one has been brought to court. No one has been identified as being the perpetrator. Yet all the reports have insisted. Coupled with that, there hasn't been a good faith attempt to enforce the independent mechanism, which is supposed to be a complaint mechanism under Section 210 of the Constitution on the security agencies, where individuals and people can lay their complaints about violations that are committed by the security forces. This has not been implemented. There is no indication in the speech we just heard when that will be implemented. We have heard that MOPA, well, first, let's start with IPA. That IPA is going to be divided into 3 evils. Now, how do you divide a bad law into 3 bad laws and say that is an improvement? The first time it was introduced, Edison Zobo, God bless his soul, mused about the idea that people can want to license people to speak. He says it was a vain attempt, it was a futile attempt, and it is an illogical attempt in this day of Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp, and social media to continue insisting that you break up IPA into 3 pieces of legislation where you are trying to license people to speak. It is, and then there's a worrying thing. Just last Tuesday, they've gone on to try and criminalize conduct on social media. They've introduced new criminal offenses that will deal with people who are exercising their freedom to speak even on social media. So they're even going after the digital age to try and criminalize. There's an excessive investment in the criminalization of conduct and living in Zimbabwe. And that also is permeated to commerce, the economy. Every week there are new criminal offenses that are being introduced in relation to the economy. So there's no freedom that is coming to people. Then you've got MOPA. MOPA is just another name for POSA. And the bad thing about MOPA is that it's got elements of it that were obtained from the Colonial Law and Order Maintenance Act. It still seeks to give police officers more power in preventing demonstrations. It seeks to make people liable for being and convening demonstration. It has got harsher penalties. It has got Where there was a 5-year jail term, there's a 20-year jail term. Where there was a light sentence, there's an increased sentencing. It is a draconian piece of legislation which has no place in a modern democratic society. So the list goes on in the new dispensation. You've got the behavior of the police. They still look as bad as they used to do during Mugabe's time. They still beat as harshly as they used to do. And currently, they don't even buy from stores where there are rubber bullets. They use live bullets. Every time they shoot, someone is dying. Every time they shoot, they will damage something. There is no restraint. There is maximum harm on individuals and no accountability to the people who would have done that. Then, demonstrations. We've got prohibitions against our demonstrations as the MDC. Just recently, they prohibited across the whole country for the same reason that we should not demonstrate. So you are supposed to be even a danger to the nation, even if you demonstrate in Gokwe or in Gwanda, where there's no seat of government or anyone that you can march to overthrow. But still, those marches were prohibited. So we have a problem of a state that is obsessed with narrowing the freedoms of the people, and they actively do it. And in his speech, he never addressed any of these issues and how, as a ministry, they are going to improve, how they are going to... Then there's the issue of non-compliance with judgment. We've got the Mafusire judgment on ZBC. We've got a number of judgments that related to the state media and how it should behave. They are completely ignored. Every time you appear on ZTV or some national TV, especially if it's my president, Nelson Chamisa, you know it's something bad. Probably they want to say he has grabbed a microphone from his wife, or they want to say something. They did do it on Zim Online. Never, ever in his political life has he ever said any sentence that is good enough to be put on BC, and it's a sentence that is supposed to make sense. Every time they look for what is ugly, the bad, and the unpretty from the opposition. And no change did we pick from the minister's expose just now. So I do believe that we still have a fundamental problem. And you heard the ladies who are distinguished human rights activists. If you don't believe me, if for some reason my face looks suspicious or looks prone to lying, or you don't like me for whatever reason, which can happen. But surely the credible evidence that has been laid out, the reports that have come from the Human Rights Commission, the number of commissioners, and I want to say the Moshante Commission was not appointed by us. It was appointed by the government. It came out with recommendations. None of those recommendations have been implemented in terms of human rights. Then you've got the...
Going once.
Okay, the last one. I will talk about the international. We have not ratified any international treaty of substance, cut on issues of torture. The African Court on Human and People's Rights, we have not ratified the optional protocol where the African Court can adjudicate on human rights. So, for as long as they shy away from civilized nations, for as long as they do not want to associate with people who are parties to international norms on human rights and standards, then it's all talk. It's a lion learning to be a vegetarian by itself.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jacob Mafume. Now we go to the other end of the panelists. Comrade Christopher Mutsvangwa, who is representing...
Hello?
Yes, you are on. Who is representing ZANU-PF. Over to you, sir.
Hello? Well, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you, the audience. Thank you, the panelists. I want to start by honoring the panelists, if only two ladies. I want to start by honoring Beatrice. Beatrice has been a good friend. And when we went No, don't laugh. When we went through a very difficult time as the war veterans, we were together with Beatrice. We had to come back again to do a change of government to fight against another dictatorship. We did it as young people, the Smith dictatorship. We came back again as old and white-haired war veterans to remove the Mugabe dictatorship, and we were with her. Thank you, Beatrice. Yeah. I've worked with Jesse. I used to be boss at ZBC, so we come a long way. I do not subscribe to the litany of accusations which you have made against, of course, the government, trying to give the impression that you were impartial, but you were really putting the government to dock, and I don't think some of the accusations stand to test. I want to thank the minister who has put across a very considered view about the earnestness of the Second Republic in trying to make sure that the constitution, which was passed by both parties who are in government, were in parliament today, but also by the public of Zimbabwe through a referendum, of which our president was one of the main legal architects, President E.D. Mnangagwa. You are trying to do a very difficult job under impossible economic circumstances to try to implement that constitution. Minister, I salute you. I don't doubt your sincerity. I also was together with you when we fought against Dr. Stopit Grace, the clinically made woman. So I know what stuff you are made of. Thank you so much. I want to go further to recognize the presence of the Ambassador of the Republic of South Africa, Ambassador Mbete. Somebody raised the issue of the training of the police. Somebody raised the issue of the arming of the police, particularly the removal of lethal weaponry from the police and replacing it with much more user-friendly crowd control techniques. South Africa has done its neighbor Zimbabwe a fantastic job. And if you consider what happened in January and earlier on in August and what happened recently, there is a world of a difference. Ambassador, that's what neighbors do to their friends when there are challenges. We really appreciate what South Africa is doing to help retrain our police. It has suffered under sanctions like many other aspects of our defense and security establishment, let alone the public. And you are rising to the occasion. We are neighbors. We are soul neighbors. Beyond just being neighbors, we acquired a political soul in common struggle. And you are showing it all the way. And the leadership which was shown in Dar es Salaam recently on the issue of sanctions is just another feather in the way we have handled the region together. Thank you, Ambassador. The bishop made a prayer and before this occasion, and afterwards he came and he gave an impassioned speech about the economic conditions under which Zimbabweans are living. I have no particular misgivings about what Justina was saying concerning what government should do in terms of ensuring that human rights are exercised and seem to be exercised. But the economic conditions of a country are very, very fundamental to the realization of human rights. If we don't have conducive economic conditions, then everything becomes difficult, because when there's suffering, there's also a tendency to point fingers and to quarrel more than at another time. Because you are suffering, you are not sharing joy of prosperity. Bishop, there is in the accusations about the economic malaise obtaining in this country, I just want to cite a very practical issue. All your parents, for those who are here and those who are older, you all contributed to a pension fund. You all contributed to a pension fund. Today, none of those pension funds are being paid to people who have retired. We have an economic player in this country, and a major economic player which was the repository of all those pension funds, the deferred consumption funds of the people of Zimbabwe, which means that is the major source of investment for this country. That company took all the money which was contributed, expatriated it. Today it has come back to this country to restart business after closing its headquarters in London. They lost money to Lehman Brothers, they lost money to Chinese investments, they lost money to American investments, they lost money to Swedish investments. Your money, your biggest pool of investments, which should be driving the economy of this country. All the properties in this city, 80% are owned by that company. It's a private company. But nobody questions or relates your present predicament to the fact that you lost investments which were your savings to that particular company. And there's an expectation that the government will do a miracle. If there is any blame I would give to the former government, because this was derelict in letting such a regulatory financial environment become what it was. But perhaps they were complicit because there was an aim to make sure that the economy collapses. What am I saying? When we look and analyze what are the conditions of a country, let's go deeper than skimming on the surface with accusations about a particular one item, human rights, this human rights, this government, that, without fundamentally understanding what is the cause of our present economic predicament and what was the reason why it was done that way. You know, we were brought to question, my generation, 90 decades of complacence to Ian Smith. We challenged it, we were young, I was 19, others were 12. And we changed the condition to make it possible for you to talk of human rights. We were not talking about that. It was not possible. Can we go a little bit deeper and question so that we can try to understand why do we have a centralized economy? Why do we accept that your money which has been earned as a foreign currency belongs to the state and the state gives it to the central bank and then the central bank allocates it to anybody else? Why do we accept things like that? It's private property. Why shouldn't the Korokosas keep their money? Why shouldn't the tobacco farmers keep their money, their US dollars? No, they are all centralized. An economic model which comes from the past, we don't challenge those things. Then we become poor, then we start fighting at each other, and we don't understand why we become poor. Please, 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 let's try to be deeper. Because Zimbabweans, we learn without being knowledgeable. And this is the bane of this country. Yes. The young man, I defer to the young. You see, if you are elected, there are obligations about being elected. All these laws, first, they have not been passed, so you are criticizing they have not been signed. But if they were passed in Parliament, you were in Parliament. That was the forum for you to criticize those institutions. Well, if you don't get enough members in Parliament and then you get defeated, that's what is called democracy. Then, secondly, if you are elected to Parliament, then you must go to Parliament and do your job. But if you abscond and then the president is reading the presidential State of the Union address and you are not there, then you can't debate properly. Then you are doing a disservice to your constituents. Please go to Parliament and do what your electorate voted you for. Thirdly, there are issues about compliance with an electoral system. A football game has got 90 minutes. If it's not over 90 minutes, there's extra time, 30 minutes. If it's not over, there is a penalty shootout. Then the game is over. Now we have a party which wants a game to go on forever and ever and ever and ever. We finished elections in 2018. They want the country to be in election mode until 2023. So the country can't be governed. And in the meantime, precious national management time, which should be used to address the economic issues, it is given to internecine quarrels. I want to fight, I want to rule, I want to rule, I want to rule. I mean, why can't Nelson one day go to Mnangagwa say, we can quarrel about our differences, but let's get on a plane, go to London, see capital of Zimbabwe, go to Beijing, see capital of Zimbabwe, go to Washington, see capital of Zimbabwe, go to Tokyo. because this economy does not wait for our quarrels. We continue to slide to be into poverty. Never in one day do they want to talk about that. You have a people brothers who quarrel the whole day, then they burn the house at the end of the day as a spectacle to the village. Then when the house has been burnt, the villagers go and sleep and they have nowhere to sleep. That's what we are today. We have to change the way we do and realize what the sustenance of an economy is beyond party politics.
Going once.
Thank you.